Aston Villa have now won their last 3 home league games after beating Man City 2-1 at Villa Park. All of the headlines, well, not all of them, most of them will be about Man City and their troubles. Can it get worse than this for Pep? And everything in between, kind of focused on how their struggles continue. It's another defeat for them, but credit has to go to Villa today in terms of how they showed up and executed a game plan. This is still a top side with elite players in it, although you wouldn't know that Erling Haaland was playing today because Pau Torres and Ezri Konsa were so strong. Kamara and Onana playing together for the first time in that double pivot, excellent. Villa are also carrying a threat in attack as well. Morgan Rogers had City players hanging off him at points in the match. John McGinn as well, utilising the space on that right side, linking the play well. Tielemans in that position that he operated in so effectively last season as well, pulling the strings. And John Duran, of course, scoring again. I think that's now scoring in each of his 6 starts that he's made this season in all competitions. The fullbacks as well, performing well too. It was a difficult, I think, first half for Cash because he didn't have too much support against Grealish, and Grealish was up for it in the first half. Second half, Cash contained him well, and Villa took a bit more control and saw the game out. It was a shame they couldn't keep a clean sheet. In the end, Phil Foden scoring in the 93rd minute, so just before the end of the match, Villa had to deal with one set piece, but Martinez came out and claimed it straight away. I think, however that ball goes into the box, Martinez was ready to pounce on it. He didn't want a repeat of what happened against Bournemouth, and that would have been completely unfair. Villa, they could have won the match 3-4 today, and if they did, then we'd be talking about probably the best performance of the season. You're looking at the away match against Fulham, I think. Brentford was strong as well, of course, but this is obviously against a different calibre of opponent altogether. A side who have now fallen at Villa Park for 2 years in a row. Villa haven't beaten City in league matches at home successively before the turn of the millennium. So, yeah, really good day for Villa. Obviously, teams playing around them, and what I would say straight away is I would ignore the table and how it looks and what might happen in the next few games. This is another 3 points towards Villa's objective, essentially. 3 points against the side as well, who will be around where Villa are, you think, coming into the season. So whether you want to call this a game against a team who, they're not title contenders anymore, but the European contenders, and Villa, as I say, this will probably be their competition among other sides, your Newcastle's. It's too early to judge, as I've just said, so I'm not going to go into it myself. That's up for everyone else to kind of decide and look at the table themselves. But the key thing is that, this is just another 3 points, but it feels like 3 points where Villa have almost made up where they might have slipped up before, if that makes sense. Again, a City side who've lost lots of games, but they'll turn a corner at some point for sure. They have too many good players not to do that. And of course, a January window coming up as well. Pep Guardiola, arguably the greatest manager to have ever lived. Some will say so. So yeah, a fantastic afternoon for Villa, who will now go into Boxing Day against Newcastle away. That will be obviously a very tough game. Brighton at home and Leicester at home to follow before the FA Cup. And as I say, I'm not going to look too much into where does a win take Villa in terms of the points. I think the key thing is just to be in and around these positions, and Villa have cemented themselves further in this kind of top 6 conversation, as it were. Come February, March, this is where you want to be to then attack the final months of the campaign. Maybe Villa are 4th, maybe they're 5th in top 5, hopefully. Both of those positions, 4th and 5th for Champions League this season, and obviously that's something we'll find out as we go on. Emery, in his post-match, was really pleased, as you'd expect, with how his side played and how they carried out the game plan. Gave praise to many players, including John Duran, who he referenced actually about when Villa lost 4-2 to Arsenal back in February 2023. So, 18 months ago, I think. He referenced that John Duran wasn't picking up Jorginho when he struck a goal. Obviously came off the bar and went in off Martinez, And I was watching the goal back after it. Actually, as soon as Emery said it, I loaded the goal up, and John Duran wasn't even in the picture. I don't know where he was. I wanted to kind of try and come a little bit slack, like was he off injured or whatever it may be, I'm not sure, but he wasn't there, nowhere to be seen. But then today, Emery said, or spoke about the difference, that he's there scrapping in the 60th, 70th minute to relieve pressure off the Villa defence, and that's exactly what he wanted from him today. So his all-round performance was terrific, and I totally agree. Like, if you watch that performance, you wouldn't think that's a player, or he's 21 now, so he's obviously not a teenager, but people can often look at him and think, oh, he's immature and he wants to do his own thing and be rogue. But I think today Duran realised, okay, this is actually my third league start in a row. This is my shirt to lose, and I want to do everything to keep it. And it's not just scoring goals, and maybe having a bit of a sulk even if he came off and scored. Not that happened today, but he didn't want to even give himself room to do that, because I think even he knew, wow, I really did put in a proper performance for the team today. So it's nice to see that he has that in his locker, essentially, because it's another string to Duran's bow. He worked hard and he's clearly very capable of getting stuck in and mucking about. That's exactly what Villa need against essentially the top team like City. I was really impressed with Youri Tielemans, and again, as I mentioned earlier, in the role that he operated in a lot last season with great effect. He's such a silky footballer, and it's something that when he joined at the start of after he joined last year, but at the start of the season, there were real question marks over what actually is his function in this side. What is he good at? We knew he was good at, but how does it actually look, and how does that work in Villa's structure? Like, wow, he's ahead of... It feels like he's ahead of all the opponents that he comes up against when he's on the ball. He's not very quick, and he's not particularly athletic, but he's got it in here. Like, he reads the game so well, and he's one step ahead. He sees pictures. All the top midfielders do that, especially the ones who are so good and gifted with the ball, and that is exactly what Tielemans is. At least if he can stay fit, not have any injuries, hopefully, in years to come, he feels like a player who could play well into his 30s, 38 or something, and still kind of be a general in the middle of the park, because the way he uses the ball, he's so gifted. And his pass to set Rodgers free for Villa's first goal, just sublime. Weaker foot, perfectly weighted, and from then it was a goal, because Rodgers had Duran by his side, both players making a good run. And Tielemans was doing that all afternoon, not necessarily playing that ball, but playing more intricate, cute passes. And then behind him, you had the solid kind of foundation of Kamara and Onana. Emery spoke previously about how he wanted to, or he brought in Onana to play as a backup number 6, but also play with Kamara as well when needed. And in those two players, Villa have a perfect blend of 2 sixes, almost like a modern 6 in Onana. Tall and rangy, he likes to get forward, and then Kamara, who just breaks up play, is destructive in his tackling, and again, like Tielemans, cute in his passing. So yeah, really good as well, I think, for Onana to be working and playing alongside Tielemans, a player who Tielemans, yes, but also Kamara, a player who when he's not available, or for whatever reason not playing, Onana can step in, and he knows exactly the role that he has to fulfil when he's deputising for his teammate, essentially. You could go across the side and give out plaudits. I won't do that because this video will be too long, but it is interesting that Villa, I don't want to say they've turned a corner in recent weeks, because there are some tricky games to come, but I was never, and I said this after Chelsea, I was never in the territory of, this is a crisis, because of the matches they had coming up. 2 home games against Brentford and Southampton. They won both of those matches, and the world looks like a different place. They go to Leipzig with confidence after those 2 games and a win. Then they go to Forest and unfortunately lose, but they did take the lead, and they were very unfortunate in the end, actually, to have conceded that late goal, which Alanga scored because Cash was fouled by Elliot Anderson. And if Villa don't lose that game, all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, this has been a really strong run of form that Villa have been on. And I almost want to, because football is fine margins, I almost want to believe that anyway, that Villa have turned a corner, to be perfectly honest. But again, we're going to see what Villa really are made of when they go to Newcastle. Side who are flying. As I record this, they've put 4 past Ipswich. Maybe that'll be more after finishing this is uploaded. But Villa, in a strong place, I still think. Mentioned it previously that they are, very close to a kind of perfect scenario to what would have, if you compare it to where we were at the start of the season, if you look at where we were at the start of the season, what would Villa fans taken as a great first half or first third of the campaign? It would be to be in and around the top 4 positions and in the top 8 of the Champions League. Well, that's exactly where Villa are. So I think it's been a strong start, and it could be even better. And again, as we mentioned before, it can get better. This is the first time that Onana and Kamara have played together. It's the first time Tielemans has played in the position that he played in so well last season. We've now got Bailey on the bench. Watkins was on the bench today. You've got 2 top strikers. There really is a lot to like about this team, and I think as the campaign grows, hopefully people will be in a kind of situation of Villa have managed to cope with the Champions League, because that's something that Villa have been kind of accused of not being able to do, although you played games like Liverpool away and Chelsea away after a couple of our Champions League matches recently. So there's been some kind of fair criticism of Villa, also I think some unfair criticism is what I'd say as well, and these kind of recent results have proven that this is still a good side, a side who will, I'm sure, be in Europe next season, just which competition. And while I can't name 5 better sides than them, if they play consistently and well, then why can't they be playing the Champions League next season? So this result gives a lot of belief and hope, but 3 more games to come before that West Ham FA Cup match. Newcastle away, Brighton at home, both really difficult, and then Leicester at home, again a game that Villa need to win, else matches like this, when you pick up 3 points, it kind of cancels it out. So Villa do need to back themselves up now after a strong performance today, and go again, keep going.